I did a sick, sick thing to my love. My lack of loyalty had swallowed her up. And she...
There used to be an underground bookstore called Metropophobia back 8 years ago or so. And Peter Reagan was running this town when nobody was coming downtown except for like diehards, like the young crowd who were like, what's cool? Or like, you know, people like me in their 30s who were like, yeah, I got to do some performance art, blah. And so there was like this big stage and a bookstore, and it was just crazy. But then Kimber bought it and turned it into Modified, which was a great thing and a huge step on her part because, you know, you don't know. You don't know. And then after that, I mean, it just sort of became this, became this garden of stuff. And next thing you know, there's Roosevelt Row, and then there's other venues, Paper Heart, Trunk Space, Fix, all up and down Grand, and people are like all of a sudden going, hey, wow, yeah, it can be done. We can do it. Here's a really viable example of, you know, what can happen if you just have people behind you. You know, Kimber knows like a crazy amount of people in this town, and she's got a lot of friends, you know, so, and she just called them all in and said, hey, I'm trying to do this thing, and yeah, you know, they worked with her on it.
So when I found this building, I called together a group of about 40 people, and, you know, dancers, painters, musicians, anybody from the arts community, and said, this is what my idea is. I'm willing to invest the money and put in the time and renovate this building, but it's going to have to be community driven because, first of all, I can't do it all, but secondly, it's not really going to be a profit-making venture. It's going to be something that we can all use as an outlet. And do you think we can do this? And they said, yeah. And most people said it couldn't be done, but, you know, here we are 8 years later, and it's still going. 9 years later, it's still going. So. Over the years, my role has kind of changed. I've always been the owner. Sometimes I'm the booker. Sometimes I'm the booker and the curator for the gallery. Sometimes I'm all of the, you know, everything imaginable. I think I would just characterize it as I'm the leader. You know, it's like if anything needs to be done, it's going to come down to me. You know, if it's, you know, the doorknob needs to replace, or the toilet seat's broken, or some, you know, band has an issue. I do the gallery work. I do all of the banking, deposits, tax work, payroll, pretty much anything it takes to run the space. My days are extremely diverse. You know, I mean, I'm on 4 boards for different arts and culture organizations. I run a nonprofit that's dedicated to local business and modified instinct weeds. So my days could be making a presentation to a group of wealthy business people, to teaching a workshop to high school kids, to, you know, I mean, I play music myself, to playing the drums. I mean, my days just bounce all around. You never know what you're going to get.
I like day of show stuff. That's my favorite part. I like the day when everyone loads in and sound checks and make sure the venue's right, and we open doors and people come in and it's a great show and people have a great time. The band has a great time at the end of the night, and everyone leaves happy and the band's happy, and that's, to me, is my favorite part, is the actual production day of show when it goes well, when it sounds good and there's no problems, and, you know, the band and the crowd make a great connection. People leave and, you know, they felt they got their money's worth, and the band, you know, at the end of the night says it was the best show on the tour, whatever. That's the best feeling. I have to deal with the venue and all their problems and their rules and regulations. I deal with the band. I have to deal with the people when they're upset. It comes to me, to ticketing, to the security company, to the stagehands. It's sort of like I'm like the conduit for everything, and it kind of runs through me. And you know, you try to do your best, but sometimes there's a lot of things that I can't control. Phoenix market's tough because there's no community radio station, so it's hard to a lot of times get the word out for like shows that are a little diverse. A lot of alternative stuff that isn't necessarily mainstream Fall Out Boy rock and roll is hard to promote and get the word out in Phoenix because of that. And you know, a lot of times I'll have a show and somebody will be like, oh, I didn't know that show happened and it was last week. It's tough to get people to know about concerts in this town.
A lot of the bands that play at Modified usually are playing in like bars and whatever places in other cities. So when they come here, it's kind of like, oh, this is like a, you know, a self-run art gallery venue place, and it's really cool. So it's kind of a step outside the norm for that type of crowd or whatever. So there's a place in Berkeley called Gilman Street, which has been around longer, and there's a place in Los Angeles called The Smell, which is also all volunteers. Volunteers are there like 5 nights a month. That's sometimes more, sometimes less, but and then you just kind of inform. I mean, at the beginning of each month, we just go over who can do what shows, and then it's pretty simple. We're really in a transition period right now because Leslie's leaving, and she kind of did everything before, but now it's kind of being divided up. And yeah, what I'm going to do is kind of coordinating with the volunteers and scheduling people and making sure everybody's happy.
Anyway, so I mean, that's my relationship with the volunteers is really good, I think. I just always try to be like really upfront with them and say, this is what needs to be done. It's a job. You know, you're volunteering, you're getting tips, but you're also getting this, and this. We're lucky in that we're small enough that there's not a lot of necessity for miking a lot of the amps. So mainly we mic, like, we'll mic the kick drum, we'll mic any like handheld instruments if they want them, or vocals, which is really simple. I mean, it's just a matter of like learning the system. I certainly didn't go to school for sound. I probably should have, you know, because there are a lot of kids here who go to the conservatory that volunteer here, which is amazing, and they get internship hours. I love having conservatory kids here. They're smart, they know what they're doing, and they can deal with people, you know, then they're dealing with the national bands, which eventually, if that's what they want to do, they're going to do anyway. I picked it up just when I started working here. You know, we had a manual. I tried to understand part of the manual. Mainly, it was just like trial and error. I'll get a volunteer in here, or I'll take hints from sound people that come through with touring bands. A lot of the bands have their own sound people, and so I'll be like, hey, what do you think? What do you think this does? And you know, they're like, oh, you don't need to hold that. You know, don't do that. And I'm like, all right, that's cool.